From the land of lakes, this is 10,000 Takes, brought to you by Minnesota Score Radio. Wally and Eric back for yet another week as we slice and dice the always busy, always topical, super saturated Minnesota sports scene. And if you're a football fan here in the North Star State,
oh boy,
you're probably wearing a frown these days. The Minnesota Gophers had a meltdown against Northwestern, and the purple Minnesota Vikings are out of the gate at 0-3.
Yeah, and I see you're wearing Cleveland Browns orange today, huh?
Well, I would say Denver Broncos, but I don't know if I want to claim the Broncos either.
All right, well, let's start with the purple and an 0-3 start. I don't think anybody thought that the Vikings would start out 0-3. You thought for sure they were going to win their home opener against Tampa and Baker Mayfield. That didn't happen. I think you could pretty much have written off that game at Philly. We knew that going in, although the Vikings made it close. And then you come home and you lose to a Chargers team that was just as desperate as the Minnesota Vikings. Both teams 0-2 going into it. Vikings really not performing well in the red zone at the end of the game. I think not performing well, that's an understatement. They blew it. They had two chances to win the football game at the end and couldn't get into the end zone. And so they go to 0-3. And it's not a total collapse. I mean, what you saw at the end of the Gopher game, that's a collapse. What the Vikings are doing is just a little of this and a little of that.
No.
It's just the opposite of last year, where a little of this and a little of that, and we're winning them, and now a little of this and a little of that, and they're losing.
Yeah, it's a bunch of paper cuts.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
It's not the total eclipse of the sun, as Carly Simon once sang back in the day. But when you look at it, it's slow snowball turning into an avalanche. Because you're right, they've been in all three games, one-score losses. But once they lost to the Tampa Bay Bucks, I think we all knew they were going to go into Philadelphia on a short week, play the Eagles at the Link, the reigning NFC champs.
Yeah.
And it would have been a huge victory had they pulled that out.
No question.
They didn't get it done. Then all of a sudden you come back, you play another 0-2 team. The Chargers have a lot of talent.
And they're a good team.
They are
no
a
question.
good team, and they may still be a factor in the AFC. But now it gets really tricky. You go to Carolina, and the Panthers are 0-3, and they have lost some games by a large margin, unlike the Vikings. But they're at home. They got a new coach in Frank Reich. I mean, they are hungry for a win too. So it's another desperation bowl. And I would say this: the loser of this one is definitely toast.
Yeah.
0-4. You're not climbing out of that hole. That's the Grand Canyon.
No, and if you look at the schedule, it's not particularly favorable the next few weeks. I mean, the Vikings have both the 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs coming in here, and rumor has it those are two pretty good football teams. I mean, the Chiefs are the defending Super Bowl champions, and you can make an argument that San Francisco is as good as anybody this year.
Oh, there's no doubt. And as we already know, they played Philadelphia earlier. Those are the three perfect teams left. After just 3 weeks, it's only the Eagles, 49ers, and Miami Dolphins. Kansas City does have a loss, but I think Kansas City clearly is one of the top teams in the NFL, and they won the Super Bowl, as we know, last season. So, yes, they have to find a way to beat Carolina because you see the Chiefs right away the next week. All of their fans will come up I-35. And Taylor Swift will probably be inside the house of noise. You've got Patrick Mahomes. You've got, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid, Chris Jones, that group. Oh, my. You would not want to be facing them 0-4.
No. And so they've got some things they have to correct. They went out and got Reisner, offensive lineman, try to fix that. They went out and got Akers from the Rams, try to fix the running game. Although I thought Alexander Madison played pretty well. He had a decent game.
He had 93 yards.
Yeah. So, I mean, if they get 93 yards every game out of Alexander Madison, I think they'll be more than convinced that their running game's okay.
And they committed to the run a lot
They did.
more. I mean, I know Kirk Cousins still put up those cartoon-like numbers and had a solid passing game. Justin Herbert threw for over 400 in the game for Los Angeles. But you have to stick to the run. You can't just give a guy 8 or 9 chances and expect, miracles. You've got to commit to it. So I just still don't think they're a dominant running team because their O-line is not a road-grading O-line.
Do you get the feeling, and I've thought this all along about Alexander Madison, he's been a regular on our radio show and on the TV show a few times last year, but do you get the feeling that I like him, but I don't think he's the breakaway type of runner? You're not going to get that. He doesn't have that breakaway speed that you got with Dalvin or even maybe with Chandler. his current backup right now.
Well, I think, he was the perfect complement to Dalvin Cook.
Right.
Dalvin gave you everything. He could catch the ball in space, and he was explosive. He could go 80 yards to the house. We saw it last year against Miami when they played the Dolphins on the road. And then they would, give Alexander a few shots during a game, and it was a good 1-2 punch. Now he's the man. It's different when you're the man.
Yeah.
Because then everybody thinks you have to carry the load. I think they missed Dalvin Cook. I would have reworked my salary cap money to try to keep him and maybe let some other guys go.
I think that there's pressure on Kevin O'Connell now. The fact that he said anybody who starts fumbling the ball, we're going to have to think about it, whether they're in the lineup. I just think that 0-3, 0-4, man, if they lose at Carolina, 0-4, you said it, they're probably toast. I mean, that's a big hill to climb because they're already a couple games behind the Packers and the Lions, and it's not going to get any easier. Granted, you still have all those games against the Packers and the Lions and all those games against the Bears as well. So you're all right within the division, but they got to win at Carolina or they're in trouble.
No doubt. And I would say this, that, if they go 0-4, the Purple Nation is going to be howling at the moon. They're going to be barking at everything.
Yes, they are.
And for Kevin O'Connell to publicly call out fumblers, he went Zim. I mean, that's what Mike Zimmer used to do, right? He would throw people under the bus in the media. So maybe the nice guy shine is wearing off for Kevin O'Connell.
No doubt.
All right, well, stick around. We're going to get some insight from Warren Moon, the Hall of Fame quarterback, will join us coming up here on 10K Takes.
The excitement is real at Fond du Lac Casino. With over 650 slots to play, there's always something going on right in the heart of downtown Duluth. Come in to enjoy 2 floors of entertainment where you'll find some of the hottest new games along with a number of the old favorites. Play at your comfort level, all the way up to high stakes where the payouts can be huge. Relax in a comfortable atmosphere and maybe get a beverage while you gather and have fun with your friends. Open 7 days a week so you can
have a great time out at Fond du Lac.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision. It's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Welcome back, 10,000 Takes, Wally and Eric. And this NFL season has not been a great start for your Minnesota Vikings, but one guy who's going to help break it down for us, Warren Moon, the former Minnesota Vikings quarterback. Warren, welcome to the show. 0-3. Now, I know that in your time, not many 0-3 starts when you played for the Oilers and the Vikings and the Chiefs, but what do you think the Vikings are going through right now with that 0-3 start?
I think they're just trying to figure out what it takes to get a win, because these are games that they won last year. And I think they won something like, 13 games last year. And a lot of those were come from behind wins, a lot of close game wins. This year, the games that they were winning last year, they're losing. So they've got to figure out a better way to finish these games out. I think that'll start with trying to run the football better, for one. And I think not giving up so many big plays on the defensive side of the ball. I think that'll help as well. But yeah, whenever you have games and you know you're in them, those are the worst games to lose, because you always just rack your brains at night trying to figure out what I could have did better in order to make this game and the outcome come out a little bit better for us.
Warren, statistically, Kirk Cousins is at the top of most NFL passing categories, yet the team's 0-3. The rumor mill is swirling that the Vikings and the New York Jets are going to get together and Cousins will save the day for the Jets. Do you put any stock in that stuff this early in the season?
I think whenever there's smoke, there's fire. I'm sure that maybe the Jets have put out some inquiries to what it would take to get a Kirk Cousins. That doesn't mean the Minnesota Vikings went apart with Kirk Cousins, because they have to have somebody to replace him with. And just because they're 0-3 doesn't mean their season is over with. Now, if you start going to 0-5 or something like that, yeah, it's a little bit different story. But the way Kirk's playing right now, he's not the problem with this football team. Like I said, they've got to run the football better to make themselves a little bit more balanced. That'll take a little bit more pressure off of their defense because it runs the clock. It keeps the defense a little bit fresher. And then the defense on their side of the ball has to not give up the big plays and let teams run the football the way they have against them. I mean, they're number 20 in the league in defense, which isn't great, but it's not terrible. But they could definitely play better than what they are.
That said, do you think they missed Dalvin Cook, who was a multi-purpose back, could run it, he was explosive, catch it, he was dangerous in space, and he could block. He could pick up a blitz. I feel like they do. What do you think?
Yeah, whenever you lose a back the caliber of Dalvin, you're going to be missing something. I know Addison got off to a bad start there in that first game, had a big fumble late in a ball game. I think there was a lot of criticism of him on the social media side, got some death threats and different things like that. And that can affect a player in a certain way when people come at you like that. All of a sudden now you're going to be a little bit more cautious when you run the ball. You're not playing free-flowingly. I think you're thinking too much. So I think he's a good enough back to get it done, but what he's been having to deal with, I think, has really affected his game. But there's no question when you lose a guy like Dalvin Cook, you're losing a quality back that can do all the things you just said he could do.
You mentioned the fact that the Vikings, of course, they won 11 out of their 13 games last year were one-score games, and a lot of them were towards the end of the game, and that has turned on them. Now, Kevin O'Connell, in just his second year, everything was roses last year for the most part until the playoffs came, and they lost right away to the Giants. But how do you suspect this is affecting Kevin O'Connell as a young coach? Because, you could say that he's proven because he's got 1 year under his belt, but he didn't really have that kind of adversity that he's facing right now.
Well, he didn't as a head coach, but as he mentioned, I think that they got off to a slow start with the Rams a few years ago, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. So he doesn't feel like the season is over just because they're off to a slow start. There's still a lot of season left to play. All you got to do is get that one win, and all of a sudden things can turn around. And when you're as explosive as this football team is, you have a chance to put up a lot of points on people. You just have to make sure you're not giving up as many as they've been giving up and turning the football over. I think that was a big problem for them early in the season, a lot of fumbles. Kurt's done a very good job with the football, only 2 interceptions in these first 3 games, but they can't fumble the football the way they were those first couple of games. You can't expect to win games when you have turnovers of 3 and 4 in a ball game.
Warren, you brought up Alexander Madison and what he had to deal with in social media a couple weeks ago. Totally unacceptable. I mean, racist comments. It was very ugly, and that's the world, unfortunately, we live in with the X-averse or Twitterverse and TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff. When you played, we didn't have the social media presence, but you were one of the first African-American quarterbacks to get a starting job. You had to go to Canada to prove yourself. How bad was it when you played, and how do you block out the noise, especially the hate?
Yeah, you're right. I didn't have to deal with the social media side of it. I think that was really just getting ready to start when I was retiring. But people could still write letters. They could still get their messages across. So, I had death threats in ball games where I had to be escorted off the field by our security people in order to get to the locker room after games. I've had the letters. I've had it all. So I understand because it's rattling to you. It kind of in some ways makes you chuckle, like, you mean somebody would really want to kill me over a football game? And then on the other side of it, it makes you wonder if it's serious or not. And now you start thinking about your family and if they're around you. So yeah, it can really weigh on your mind if you let it. And I'm sure as a young kid, he probably is thinking about this a lot, and it's probably affecting him because I don't think he's playing the way that he's capable. But there's no question. There's no room for any of this type of hate in society in general about anything, but definitely not about sports and about a football game. So whoever's out there doing and saying those different things, shame on them.
And Warren, look, when you played, the game was under a microscope. It was incredibly popular. Now it's even more popular. These guys swim in a fishbowl, and you get instant access to their stats and their highlights, thanks to your phone and all that stuff. what are the do's and don'ts for a fan? I think it's fair game to boo, and if you're unhappy, you paid a lot of money to see your team play. But a lot of them cross the line, and then to take it a step further, fans are fighting with each other now. I mean, a Patriot fan is dead. He got punched and he's dead. And I saw 49er fans battling recently. What's going on?
Yeah, we've seen that over the years. I remember the Dodgers and Giants. Their fans got into it in a parking lot after a game one time, and some people died. So this has gone on, and you've seen like soccer games over in Europe and riots, and fans just take this thing too far, and that's the reason why they call them fans. It's short for fanatic, and they get a little bit too fanatic about their sport. They just take it a little bit too seriously. But I think for the players, they just have to be extra careful these days, because you just never know where or when danger might be around you. It shouldn't have to be that way, but that's kind of the way it is. I know the NFL really supplies a lot of different security for the guys, especially when they're coming out of the stadiums after games, to make sure they get to their cars safely and all those different types of things. But we really shouldn't have to deal with that type of stuff, and it's unfortunate that they are, but that's the kind of the world we live in right now, and it's unfortunate because sports is supposed to be an escape for you to go and have some fun and get away from your everyday problems. But now you can't even find a way to get away from your everyday problems, because the things you used to go to, or the things that you are trying to go to have some excitement and some enjoyment, you're having the same type of problems.
All right, last question. We'll let you go. After an 0-3 start, do you still think the Minnesota Vikings can be a 9 or 10 win team? Do they have enough talent? They have the ability to be a 9 or 10 win team and perhaps make the postseason?
I think they do. I think they can get their season turned around. It's tough when you get off to a slow start like this, because now you're playing that uphill battle of you just trying to get back to 500. And I think that's the goal right now, is to get to 3-3. And then once you get to 3-3, now your whole season is ahead of you. But you can't get much further ahead than that. You got to take it one game at a time, which is the old saying. But you really have to play these games one game at a time. Try and get back to that 500 mark, and then hopefully you'll take off from there.
Warren, appreciate your insight. We will talk to you again down the road as this NFL season continues to unfold.
All right, well, thanks a lot, man. Talk to you soon, Eric. You take care.
All right, see you, Warren.
All right. He is Warren Moon, the former Minnesota Viking, of course, a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Back with more right after this timeout. Stay with us.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Welcome back, 10,000 takes. All right, we have drilled down on the Vikings about as far as I care to go, seeing that they're 0-3. Your Minnesota Gophers aren't that much better off, especially after losing that game at Northwestern. Ugh. I mean, they had a 21-point fourth quarter lead, and they coughed it up. Has the shine come off the P.J. Fleck era now?
Clearly. I think it has. I've never been one who thought he was an elite coach. He likes that phrase elite a lot. I think he's been an above-average coach, winning the Outback Bowl against Auburn on New Year's Day a few years ago. Huge Gopher win.
Is that the pinnacle, though?
That's the pinnacle. The home win against Penn State, the field rush, also a big one. Couple of victories against Bucky, the Wisconsin Badgers. But they haven't won the Big Ten West.
No.
And that's the weaker of the two divisions.
They haven't beaten
Purdue's
Iowa.
found a way to do it. Wisconsin's found a way to do it. Iowa's found a way to do it. Even Northwestern has won the Big Ten West. So, yes, I think the shine is off. And you look at that loss to the Wildcats, the scandal-plagued Northwestern Wildcats the other night. That has to be up there in the top 3 or 4 for all-time Gopher defeats. And I know there's a lot to choose from. But I put it ahead of the Michigan meltdown on a Friday night, because Michigan's still Michigan, right? That was a Glenn Mason team. The Texas Tech comeback in a bowl game out in Arizona that cost Glenn his job, but that was still a bowl game. That was a Mike Leach team. They had the capabilities of coming back. This is Northwestern.
Well, I don't put this ahead of the Bowling Green loss, though.
No, that's where I was going.
Okay.
It's Bowling Green. You're favored by 31 at home, and you lose that. And then this is number 2.
Yeah, well, and both under P.J. Fleck.
Yes,
oh, by the way.
on his watch.
Yeah, I don't know there isn't much left to say. I mean, if they don't win the Big Ten West this year, and they certainly are not off to a start that would do that, because you have to win those games because they have Michigan coming up, they got to go to Iowa, and then they have to go to the Horseshoe in Columbus at Ohio State. They're realistically, if they could win one of those 3, I think you'd be doing cartwheels down Hennepin Avenue. But I don't think any of the 3 are going to come through.
No, and Wisconsin's going to come in here looking for revenge. And the Badgers have dropped a little bit, but it's still going to be competitive. We know that at the minimum. So it's gloom and doom in Dinkytown.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go positive. Your Minnesota Twins in the postseason. Playoffs start on Tuesday. Do you think, and they'll have the 3-game series, they'll get the home games, so they'll play as many as they need at home. They're all at home. Do you think that Byron Buxton should be part of this postseason roster? That's the debate right now. Yeah. Is he healthy enough? I guess maybe that's more of a question.
To me, that is what I boil it down to. If you have Byron Buxton at 100%, then I want him on that 26-man roster. Because he struck out a lot. He wasn't performing well at the plate as a DH. He didn't get a chance to go to center field this year and flash his Gold Glove. But even if he's striking out 3 times, that 4th time he might hit a moonbeam into the upper deck. And if you can put him in the outfield, he may take away an extra base hit. He might play Spider-Man and make one of those acrobatic grabs as he denies somebody a home run. If he's not on the 26-man, and as much as you're paying him, then you might as well just tell Byron you're going to have a new team next season. That would be an insult. If I'm Byron Buxton, I am not happy.
Yeah. Well, we may be seeing the beginning of the end of the Byron Buxton era. That's for sure. All right. More to come. Takes of the day right after this. Timeout.
The excitement is real at Fond du Lac Casino. With over 650 slots to play, there's always something going on right in the heart of downtown Duluth. Come in to enjoy 2 floors of entertainment where you'll find some of the hottest new games along with a number of the old favorites. Play at your comfort level all the way up to high stakes where the payouts can be huge. Relax in a comfortable atmosphere and maybe get a beverage while you gather and have fun with your friends. Open 7 days a week so you can
have a great time out at Fond du Lac.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
10K takes on television. Another episode almost in the books. We'll get to takes of the day here shortly. But before we do, the Minnesota Twins are postseason bound. They will play October baseball next week at trendy Target Field, a minimum of 2 games, potentially 3. Are you optimistic that this is the year the Twins finally win a playoff game and snap the 18-game postseason losing streak?
Well, if you are a Minnesota sports fan, this may not be what you're thinking right now, because will the Twins be the first team of the 4 to get out of the first round? Vikings go down right away to the Giants. Wild go down right away in the first round. And as you know, the Timberwolves right away in the first round. So the Twins are here to complete the quartet, right? Oh, wow. They would become the 4th of all our teams to go down in the first round. I think it's going to depend on who they play, to be honest with you. I don't necessarily think that Houston has played particularly well down the stretch. So, maybe they catch Houston at the right time. Although, if Houston gets in, that probably means that they've played pretty decent baseball this final week of the season. So I don't know. I think it's a 50-50 flip whether they make it into the next round.
Yeah, you're probably right. I do know this. if they do get into round 2, which would be the ALDS, I'll be getting myself a cap. It's going to cost me some money because I know in that twin store that new M cap with the North Star above it, that's probably $40, $50 if I want a new era fitted cap. But I made a promise on these airwaves a few weeks ago. If they win the first round, the wild card run, I got to get a cap and wear it on this show.
It's a Miami Marlins cap, isn't it?
Well, it's similar, but it's the Minnesota Twins. I don't think the Marlins have sued the Twins for any copyright infringements or trademark things.
Dopey.
The Marlins are just happy they got Luis Ariz. Although the Twins are happy they got Pablo Lopez.
Yeah,
that deal pretty much worked out for both teams.
I think it has. I think that's a fair statement. All right. I am told it's time for Takes of the Day.
Yeah, we're going to find out what your mood is.
Okay.
Giddy Guardian, Angry American, Demanding Diva. What is it?
Well, I mentioned the fact the Wild and the Timberwolves, hey, it's just about that time of year. They're going to be starting up here any day now. Wild already playing preseason hockey right now, and the Timberwolves are next up. However, if you are a Wild or Timberwolves fan, you better be going to the games because as we speak, at this recording time, they do not have a TV contract. Yes, Bally Sports North, that thing is up in the air. They can't get it together with Comcast. They're going to be coming off of DirecTV shortly. So what do the Wild, what do the Timberwolves do? Well, I have a solution for you. I know it's way out of bounds. It's crazy. It only worked for about, 80 years or so. Over-the-air television. What you do, here's a simple recipe for it. You put the games on over-the-air television so everybody can see it. So you're not boxing out, 90% of your potential audience, and you sell advertising, kind of like they do with the Super Bowl and with all the other sports that are on over-the-air television. Heck, St. Thomas University is on over-the-air television with football and coming basketball and hockey. St. Cloud State has an over-the-air television contract, and they're going to be running on 9.2 this winter, like they have the past several years. How about that? Wild, Timberwolves, just do it.
Let's check out the mood meter.
Yes.
Demanding Diva. That's where I thought the needle would land. Just don't take away any of my sitcom channels,
no.
Please. And by the way, the Timberwolves are media orphans. They don't have a radio home either.
Right.
And I'm not sure they're going to get one. So, all right, well, I'll talk some television as well.
Okay.
If I ran the NFL, there are 3 things that I would get rid of. The first would be domes. Goodbye. The second would be field turf. You're gone. Natural grass. The third would be TNF, Thursday Night Football. What a flawed concept from the get-go. The only Thursday games in my league would be on Thanksgiving, and I'm okay with 3 of them. So, but what I would do, because Amazon Prime has forked out billions for the package on Thursday.
Okay.
They're okay. Let them have the games. I'm going to move them to Monday because we've had double-dip Monday Night Football games for the first 3 weeks of the season. Now, moving forward, ABC will have 1 game over the air the way it should be. I know you and I are pumped up about that.
Yes.
Let's just move TNF, the Amazon package, to the other game on Monday. And if you have cable or streaming, then you get it. ABC can do cut-ins. They can have halftime shows with highlights. Amazon can do the same thing, or Prime, or whatever they call it. And we can eliminate Thursday Night Football. And the players would be elated. The coaches would be happy. And I think the fans would be too. Nobody would miss Thursday Night Football.
I know you wouldn't.
No, it just upsets the whole week. All right, on that note, let's FedEx out our thank yous. One to Alex Yambrick, David Weld, Paul Langfellow, Rocky, Warren Moon. For Wally, I'm Eric saying so long. This is 10K Takes, your sports ticket.